Hello guys, you are welcome back. In this video we are going to learn how to push our barbershop project to GitHub, and there are several benefits of pushing your project to GitHub, which includes you can share it with anyone at any time. Other people can collaborate on the project with you. You can also work on the project on another PC if you don't have access to your PC or your PC gets corrupted. And even if you permanently delete your project on your computer, you can always go back to GitHub and have the copy again. So that's basically some of the benefit of pushing to GitHub, which we are also going to be demonstrating in this video. So enough of talking, let's get into coding. So before we continue, I'm going to assume that you know what Git is and you already have it installed on your system, and that you have a GitHub account set up already, because we've already treated it in the last video, so you can check it out if you are not up to date with the class. So the first thing we want to do here is to go to our barbershop project folder. So you can see mine over here. So I'm going to right click on it, and then I'm going to go to services. So if you are using Windows, you are going to see Git bash here, and depending on your operating system, just ensure that you open the folder in your terminal, or if you are using the VS Code terminal as well, just open the project in your VS Code and then in the terminal. That's where we want to get into. So for me, I'm just going to click on new item tab here, which item 2 is actually a version of terminal that I'm using for my own operating system. So I'm going to click on item 2 tab here, and then it's going to open up like this for me. So the first thing you will notice is we don't have Git initialized on our project yet. We have been working all this while without making use of Git, and then this is the first time that we want to initialize Git in our project. And the first thing we are going to do is git init here. So I'm just going to click on enter, and now you can see that we have Git initialized on our project. So the moment you start seeing a branch name like this, you start seeing main or master like this in your terminal, depending on the terminal that you're making use of. You might not see this, so that's why I'm recommending that you make use of Git bash. So if you're making use of Git bash, you'll see something like this as well. So you will see main here, which means like Git has started tracking the changes in this particular directory. So, and ensure that you are in your barbershop directly before you run Git init. Don't go and run this in your desktop. Ensure that you are in the right directory. So once we have this, the next thing we need to do is git status. So git status, like we've discussed in the previous video, is going to tell us the status of our working directory, which is the barbershop. So this is telling us that we have some files that has been detected to be untracked files. So because we are actually initializing Git for the first time, so all the files that we have in the project directory are going to be untracked files for now, because we have not been tracking them previously. So that's basically what Git is telling us here. And the next thing we can now do is we want to move all these files to staging. So for us to move them to staging so that they will be able to be committable or take a snapshot of the project, we are going to run git add, and we are going to use dot. So which means like we want to stage everything or every changes in this directory. So we can just click enter, and then I'll run git status again to see the new status of the working directory. So you can see now that it has changed from red to green. And in our previous video, I said that when it is red, that means like Git has detected some changes and it has not been staged or committed. And if we are having green, that means like these files are ready to be committed. So that's basically the difference between having a red color file and then a green color file. So after this, now what we can now do is to take a snapshot of our project by making use of the commit command. So the commit command helps us to take a snapshot of our project at a particular point in time, and this is the point where we can now make use of the commit command. So we can go ahead and do git commit and then -m, which stands for message, and then we can open a single quote or double quote and then do char. We can do init Git. So basically what we did here was to initialize Git, and this is the first time, so we could just generalize all the changes in our code for this particular commit to be char init Git. So if you want to learn more about like commit messages, I spoke about it in the previous video, so you can check it out. So this is just my own way of writing comments. So I specify what am I doing. This is just like a chore, a task, or if it is a refactor, I'll just put refactor so that it enables me to understand what I was doing in this particular comment. So with this now, I can just click on enter, and then that is all. So you can see now that all these changes are now white, which means like they have been committed, and then everything is now clean in our working directory. So if I run git status again, you can see now that we have nothing to commit. Our working tree is now clean and everything is good to go to be pushed to GitHub. So let me quickly go over what we've done. So the first thing that we did was to navigate in our Barbershop project by using git bash here, or this could be like your VS Code as well, so depending on that. And once we are sure that we are in our directory, we now run git init, telling git to start tracking this particular file, and then it's going to create a repository for us in an invisible file. And then we now check the status of our working directory, which is our Barbershop project, and then git was able to dictate some files that has not been committed. And then with this now, we now run git add. So git add is basically just adding all these red files, all the untracked files, to staging, so that we'll be able to commit them, and git will start keeping track of the changes within them. And then we now run git status, and git status is now telling us that after we've added all these files, they are now trackable. Git is not keeping track of them, but then they are open to be committed. So git has started keeping track of them, but then there are some changes that has not been committed, which means like we have some changes. Do we want to take a snapshot of it? If we want, we can. If we still want to continue working, we can just continue working and then come back and then add the new changes and then commit anytime that we want. So since we are ready to commit, we just went ahead and then commit our changes and then give it a descriptive commit message like this, and then we were done. So, and when we run our git status, you can see that there's nothing to be commit in our working directory and everything looks good. So with this now, we are ready to go ahead and create a new repository on GitHub for our Barbershop project and then push our changes here to GitHub. So I'm just going to bring my browser here and then head to GitHub in my profile. So once you get to your profile like this, then go to repositories. So once you get to repositories, you can just click on new. So for this new now, this is just going to help us and create a new repository. So another shortcut is you can just come here and do github.new, and then it's going to direct you to a new repository form like this. First thing we want to do is to give our repository a name. Like I said in the previous video, repository also stands for the folder that you have locally, and the name of our folder is Barbershop. So if I check my terminal now, you can see that the directory name is Barbershop. So that's the same name that I'm going to be giving it on GitHub. So ensure that you have the same name so that you won't confuse later on when you have different names on GitHub and then you have a different name locally. So I can now come here and do Barbershop like this, and then you can see that it is actually available for me. So Barbershop like this, and if you want, you can set this as private or public, but I want people to be able to see it. I want to be able to share it with you so that you can compare your own code with my own. So I'm going to make it public. So if you want, you can give it a description or just leave it blank, and everything that is there, you can just ignore it. Like I said in the previous video, always ignore the add readme file, especially when you've already created the repository locally. So just ignore it. The only thing you just need is the repository name, which is the folder name. Anything else, just leave them as it is. You can add them later on, but when you are creating like this, just give it a repository name and then leave the rest for later. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on create repository like this, and once the repository has been created, so you are going to see a bunch of steps over here. I've already explained this in the previous video, so what we are just doing here is just using the experience we've gotten from the previous video to push our changes to GitHub. So these steps here, this is for if you are just creating a new repository, like you created the repository on GitHub first before you now create it locally. But since we already have an existing repository on our local, so this is what we are going to be making use of. So the first thing we just need to do in our own case is copy this first line of code. I'm just going to come here and then paste it here. So what we are basically doing here is we are adding the remote origin for this repository. So what this means is like this is local, and then we have a repository for it on GitHub. So we want to tell this local that this is where the GitHub version of this project is. So we have a local version and then we have the online version. So we want to connect the remote with the local one. Yeah, so that's basically what this command is doing. So you can watch the previous video to have a better understanding of this particular command. So I'll just go ahead and click on enter, and if you watch the last video, you will know that nothing is going to happen because it just set the remote origin. So you can just do git remote -v, and then this is going to verify that this URL that you've added has been successfully added. So it's just going to perform a fetch and push, and then it's going to let you know if it is successful or not. If it is not successful, you are going to see an error. So that's basically what is happening here. So the next thing that we need to do based on this step is that we need to change our branch name, and this is for people that their default branch name is master. So you will notice that from our terminal, when we ran git init, what we saw here was main. For some people, if they are using an old version of Git, or depending on their settings during installation, they can have master as a default. So what that step was telling us to do was to basically rename whatever branch that we have, maybe master, to rename it to main. But if you already have main, you can just ignore this and move on to the next one. So if we head back to our terminal now, we can now paste this. So this is basically just going to push what we have locally to our GitHub over here. So since we've already connected our local to our GitHub repository, so we can now push to it, and then we can pull from GitHub as well. So we've already pointed the remote for this local to this URL. So anytime we perform push, it's going to be pushing to this particular URL. So I can now go ahead and click on enter. So this is going to push to the branch main. We just wait for it to load. So now this has completed pushing. So you can see branch main set to track origin main. So what this means is like the main that we have locally has been set to track origin main. So origin main is what we have on GitHub, while main is what we have locally. So that's basically it. We have the local version, and then we have the GitHub version, which is also known as remote or origin. So that's basically it. So if we go back to our repository now, and then you can see that we don't have anything here automatically. So you can go ahead and refresh. So once you refresh, you can now see that we have all the files that we have locally. We also have them on GitHub here. So that's basically how you can push code from your machine for the first time to your GitHub as well. And if you make any changes and then you do your git add, git commit, and then you push, it's still going to reflect here as well. So endeavor to check the previous video so that you can see more practical on how you can make changes, how you can create different branches, how you can switch from one commit to another as well, which we've treated in the previous video. So this video is just basically like a continuation of our Barbershop project, where we push our code from local to GitHub for the first time. So with this now, if you encounter any issue or you want me or any other person to check out your code, you can just come here and then you can copy your project SSH or HTTPS like this, and then you share it with the person. They can also clone it, or better still, you can just come here and copy the URL like this. This URL that we have here, you can copy it and share it with the person, and then the person can come here and then clone it depending on their clone option. So some people are making use of HTTPS, I'm using Mac and I'm using SSH, or the person wants to use the CLI. So depending on what the person wants to use. So you can also download the zip version of your project like this if you want to maybe like host it on, let's say, like cPanel that requires like zip. So you can do that, and or you want to open it on GitHub desktop. So there are a lot of ways in which you can share your project with other people as well. And then for these settings, you know, you can update the website URL whenever we host it. You can add the descriptions and all like that. So you can go ahead and add readme if you want. There are a lot of things that you can do from here now, and then you can make changes locally and push here. So that will be it for this video. You've seen how we were able to push our Barbershop from our local machine to GitHub, and you can also do this for any of your projects, and you can share this with anyone to check it out, or they can even make their own contribution as well. So in the next video, we are going to be taking a look at how we can host our Barbershop online for people to be able to access in the internet. So see you in the next video. Bye bye. there are a lot of usefulness for pushing your code to GitHub, and we can also be rest assured that when we lose access to our PC or we don't have, there are several benefits to pushing your code. There are bene so there are so there are several benefits to pushing your code to GitHub, which includes, like, if you don't have so there are several benefits to pushing your code to GitHub aside from sharing, which also includes, like, you can work from any other PC. What you just have to do is log in on the so there are several benefits of pushing your barbershop project to. Hello guys, you are welcome back. In this video we are going to hello guys you are welcome back. In this video we are going to learn how to push. By pushing it to GitHub, you'll be able to access it anytime and anywhere. So it's just like we saving our money into the bank, so our code can be saved securely on GitHub as well. So enough of talking, let's get into coding.